You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com, where we discuss all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We'll talk about news, rumors, and game recaps. So whether you're a diehard fan or just getting started with the team, this is the podcast for you. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and me, Ken Alfred. You're listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast.
Good evening, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to another lovely evening of Jay Bird Watching, the New Year's / Opening Day Eve episode here as we prep for what is the 2023 Toronto Blue Jays season. We're going to kick things off in St. Louis this year, but we'll get to that preview here in a very short moment. I am joined by the normal gang here of Jason Lyons and Ken Alfred. Fellas, how we doing?
Doing all right, guys. I mean, glad to be here. I was kind of confused by the weather today. I was actually getting ready to barbecue something, and then for some reason I see a snowstorm. So,
yeah,
and I was just
we
about
got a
to
good
take my
inch down here in
winter
Rochester.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's opening day right now.
Exactly. But either way, happy to be here, and I'll take this off now.
Yeah, there.
I'm just happy to have made one of the shows for the last couple of weeks here. I think our guests can probably relate to this. I've been coaching baseball. I've been in Arizona for a kids baseball tournament. I've been running around to get Lynn Valley Little League all ready to go for the year. So as a parent and a father and a baseball dad, that's been taking up the last couple of weeks of my life. But I wasn't going to miss this one. Super excited to talk season opening and 26-man roster and world championships of baseball, the whole thing. I'm ready to go.
Couldn't tell how many Red Bulls.
No Red Bulls. I had 2 double stuffed Oreos, and that's it.
There it is. So he's on a sugar high, everybody. So there you go. So joining this wonderful gang of collective goofballs here this evening, we have Scott Richmond, former Blue Jay / as Jason mentioned, baseball dad himself at these days. So how are we doing, Scott?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have people like yourself on that have been in and around the team and wonderful things wrapping up as far as a guy that played in the World Baseball Classic that got to actually enjoy watching this year. So how was that?
Yeah, it's good. I'm equally excited for opening day. A lot of buzz around the Jays every year now. So every year we're thinking it's going to be the year. And then to start it off with the World Baseball Classic just puts icing on the cake. You see all the excitement, these playoff games before a regular season even starts. It gets me going, gives me chills. You see some of the top talent facing some of the other top talent. It excites me even more for a regular season opening day. And with the acquisition the Jays did this year in this offseason, you still got to go play the games, but super excited at what's ahead and looking forward to getting started.
Yeah. So as a guy that's been through opening days, World Baseball Classics on some really cool teams, and not to mention you sported an awesome uniform for the World Baseball Classic this year as a spectator, just saying. So yeah. How excited were you on these days when you were getting ready for the gear up, like I said, where it was getting ready for the WBC or regular everyday Blue Jays or any of the teams that you played for opening day?
Yeah, it's always special. It's fun to kind of break off with the team you're going to go to war with. You're amongst everybody. You got guys from all levels kind of coming in, filling in. It's pretty loose in spring training. Not like I was a clear cut, you've got a spot on the team. So it was a little bit more stressful. I had to really, really, really work hard every single outing. It wasn't just get it loose during spring training, you'll be flying north. So that pressure was always a little bit more added. Spring training is a little bit different for a guy on the bubble. A lot of these guys making the team, I really like to watch them because they have to stand out, come in more prepared. The Jays are a little bit different now. There's a lot of guys that are returning, not a lot of bubble guys. You kind of know who you're going to bring, and there's maybe one, maybe. But overall, like I said before, the Classic, anytime you're wearing your country's name across your chest, regardless how well you do, look at what Great Britain did, beating a team, guaranteed to be in the next World Baseball Classic now, like humongous win. That's all they were looking for, right? Just all that excitement. Hearing Mike Trout talk about wearing my country's name, the brotherhood we have, these guys I don't get to talk to, we go to war together, and these intensity of these games we're in. That's what we've always known. I played for Canada for 15 years. We've always known that. These superstars, they don't get that benefit of doing that because they're too busy making the big leagues and going to the hopefully playoffs. They can't play in these international tournaments. So for us, guys that are on the bubble, guys that play internationally a lot, it's fantastic. We know what that feeling's like, and it's nice to see them get a glimpse of it and get a part of it so the international world can see the top talent. That's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece to the whole World Baseball Classic thing. Is as far as Blue Jays fans go, we got to see Otto Lopez for Team Canada play amazing this whole World Baseball Classic, and I really think that put him that close to getting into the majors this year. And it came down to really him and one other guy, and Nathan Lukes, who just, I think it really came down to the position the two of them played. The Blue Jays have a plethora of guys that can play up the middle and around the infield, and they didn't really have that other guy who was a clear-cut outfielder. And that was the real differentiating point, I felt like, between Lukes and Lopez, but both rightfully deserving, especially with, like you had mentioned, the performance you put forward in front of good, quality, competitive baseball in the World Baseball Classic. It's not just a show up and play against the guys that are really the single A guys at that point. You're playing high level competition. So that was as close to a major league game that you're ever going to get, especially, pre-opening day.
Absolutely. And it's a playoff game. The deeper you go in the tournament, you're not just playing a major league game. This means a ton. They're pulling you in the third inning as a starter, not just because of pitch count, because you don't have it that day, and they're going straight to the pen. I mean, they're going to win. And that's a playoff game. And to give these kids, not besides the superstar teams, the Otto Lopez's, the Edward Julians of Baseball Canada, the opportunity to get into these big games and showcase what they can do and the pressures against them. It's just a really, really great feeling seeing where Canada's moving forward with the Baseball Classic. Mexico beat us out, but look how far they went. They had a fantastic squad. We were in that game to the sixth inning. We didn't have, we have to get all our big leaguers to be really solidly competitive in our pools. Usually we have a hard time pulling them all together, but the guys that come and fill in, super proud of them. I was ecstatic to be in the stands cheering them on. Got to hang out with them at a banquet together, so that was a lot of fun. But overall, just seeing the guys, seeing the up and coming Baseball Canada next guys coming through the ranks. We had a starter that kind of made me feel old because I took a picture. He started against who was it? Colombia, Sikaro. Anyway, yeah, I paid against him. I took a picture with him when he was 9, and now he's starting for Canada, and his mom and dad wanted to make sure that I was taking a picture with him after the game too.
That's funny.
You kind of feel young, but you're not young anymore.
Hey, Scott. Yeah. I was wondering, we've seen a lot of guys, and I think this is something that only the World Baseball Classic can possibly highlight, is guys who would never get seen by U.S. scouts actually getting signed from the World Baseball Classic. And the other thing that I've noticed as well, and, sort of to your point about Canada's improvement in baseball, I was just down in Arizona in a really high-level tournament for our U12 kids, and 3 teams from British Columbia won their divisions out of 5 possible total divisions. And I mean, when you guys put this into scope, what we're talking about is we're talking about 12-year-old kids in America that don't go to elementary school. They travel the entire year with their parents. They go to 30-plus baseball tournaments a year. And my group hasn't played a game since August. And we made it to the semifinals and lost. There's something in the water in Canada right now. And I mean, what do you think about, sort of those guys that are afforded these chances from an opportunity like World Baseball Classic?
Like you just said, these 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds coming up, if they're lucky enough to play on the junior team, then they get noticed. I never played on the junior team. I played 15 years for Canada's national team. It doesn't matter your route. Keep working hard. In good situations. If you got to call Greg, if you got to call these guys, hey, do you have a tryout? I'd love to come out and try out. Don't joke around, but if you want it, go get it. Don't wait for them to call. Yeah. With life, go get it. So seeing the confidence that Canadian kids get coming down to a weather-rich place like Arizona, where these kids are outside every single weekend of every month, and you guys haven't been outside in 6 months, and now you come down and compete on a high level in your age group and show the kids they can hang. They better be going back with their heads held high, knowing we do that. We're always underdogs. But then we go to the World Baseball Classic. We're used to being underdogs. We go to the Pan Am Games. We're underdogs. We win gold medals. We do things, but anytime I know Canadian kids that go to colleges, the coaches want them because they know they're hardworking. We're obviously polite, but we're hardworking. We've overcome adversities to get there, and we're usually pretty raw, where they can really mold you into a good ball player with some proper instruction. So I'm ecstatic. I love where the Canadian ex big league guys, upper levels, minor league guys, and Baseball Canada guys go back to their communities in Canada now and give back, teach the kids, bring the knowledge they've learned back to the country that we never had when we were young. We had a few people, we looked up to Larry Walker and go, he did it, we can do it, and he's great with the national team. He's coaching first base in tournaments in Brazil because he cares, but he wasn't throwing clinics that I could find back home when he was coming up. So have these people give back and make little programs where kids are getting better. So now there's more influx coming down, more opportunity.
Yep. No, that's all great stuff. It should be, it's a wonderful game that everybody, especially young kids should be playing. And as far as learning many of life's lessons along with the things that we were talking about here, get out there and actually play and just get your game out there. And if you think you're good enough and you want to give it a shot, get in front of these people. And to that point, the wonderful thing with social media is these days, you can just throw it out at Pinch Ninja on Twitter. And sometimes they retweet it out to 1 million people and you never know who's going to see it. So there's a way to get seen these days versus, when I was playing Division III and not doing anything myself. So it is what it is. But that's an awesome point to that point. And I'm glad to see that program is really moving up in the right direction. And Jason, I'm glad to hear that you guys came down here and, beat up on us a little bit and put those guys, even with the World Baseball Classic, taken with Canada right there with Mexico, they get to play baseball all year. You guys are hiding in gyms and whatnot, taking BP.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that this World Baseball Classic has done is this is legitimate. I know guys that have played for Canada in the Olympics. I know all this stuff. They've coached my kids. They're around our neighborhood. They live up here in North Van. But nothing quite affected so much was when one of them brought their jersey out while we were watching one of the games. They had an attachment like we only have to hockey, and the World Baseball Classic is changing that. And the cool thing for me is I'm able to now go and my passion, my love for baseball, my kids have it, but they just don't know the extent of it. And when you can start digging into teams like Mexico and they're like, why is Austin Barnes playing for Mexico? Why is Lars Nootbaar playing for Japan? And you start to go into lineage and how you can get there and what's my best opportunity? Canada doesn't have a spot for me, so maybe I'll go try out for Great Britain, or, Colombia doesn't have a spot for me. I'm going to go play for the Netherlands. It's so cool. I can't even tell you. I wish they did it every year. I know they can't, but I wish they did.
Do we know if they're going to be expanding the number of countries that are going to be competing in the World Baseball Classic right now, or is it still going to be capped to where it is right now?
Yeah, I think it's capped, and it won't be for another 4 years, unfortunately. So that'd be the other catch, because it's really a substitution for the Olympics of not having the baseball tournament anymore. So
whoa. Any more or just in the next Olympics?
Next Olympics, that's what it was the last couple of Olympics too, right, Scott? As far as it goes, it wasn't, they're like, oh, we should just do this.
Yeah. So
and when it happened, it turned into something big again. It might go back the other direction now. Who knows?
Yeah. So when I first started getting noticed, I was with the Blue Jays minor league system and Beijing Olympics in 2008. I helped them qualify for the Olympics with Baseball Canada. Jays called me up the day before, and we were supposed to go up anyway with Baseball Canada, get introduced before the game, and I ended up starting that game. So Baseball Canada got to see my Major League debut, but I didn't get to go to the Olympics. Then the next Olympics was in Rio de Janeiro and then London were the next 8 years. There's no baseball there. It's an easy cut. Too many teams, lots of rooms taken in the dorms. You got to build a decent enough field with a side field. So my whole career, it was out of the Olympics. The reason why I played till I was 40 was trying to be an Olympian, to put a feather in that hat. And Tokyo obviously has fields. They're baseball's second biggest sport after sumo wrestling, right? I mean, they have baseball there. So I think that's why hopefully you said they're not permanently taking it out, but it's very specific.
I'm going on record.
Country that they're going to.
Yeah, and I really would love to see it because I agree with you that, if I was somebody that was able to compete for a gold medal, I don't care what event it is, if I was able to do it, I would like to be able to do that. And the fact that you had that shot to be able to get there that close, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But I would have, in your situation, major league call up.
Oh my gosh. Listen,
you know what I mean? What do you do?
We play baseball. We're not trying to be an Olympian. We're trying to be a major leaguer. If I was a shot putter or a long jumper, then Olympics are my pinnacle. Selfishly, it would have been nice to do both. It wasn't my time. I was able to be a big leaguer. You're not going to hear a complaint from me, but with the Olympics, the way they happen every 4 years and the longevity of my career, would have been nice to kind of check that in there. Not saying Canada's a clear cut to the Olympics, but half the battle of getting there is the fun of it. You've earned it, so the pleasure of that.
So, and to that point, if I recall, you did pretty well right off of that call up, or is that the little stint you did there at the end of the season? Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't you rookie of the month?
That was the beginning of the next.
Okay. I couldn't remember which piece it was.
So I went 1-3. I won my last start in 2008 in September, throwing to Curtis Thigpen in a rainy day in Baltimore. And I won my start there. I was 0-3 and I got my first win there. And then the stats that kind of held with me, I was 1-3 with a 4 ERA, had 20, 25 strikeouts somewhere along there, and 2 walks. So they knew that I wasn't scared to throw the ball in there. They knew I could strike people out. I was going deep enough into games. If you're new and you got bullpen that's rested, because Halliday throws before or after me, I was the 5th guy. He's eating up 8 innings, but the bullpen's always fresh when I'm in there. So if it's a fringy 5th inning, they're not afraid to huck you and go, that was good enough. So, but keep my team in it. And then the next year I was able to break opening day. And then in April, to solidify my spot on the team, I won Rookie of the Month.
There it is.
Awesome.
Easy.
So,
just like
they're one of these, I believe, right?
It was one of those. Yeah. It was actually that one right there.
Oh, there it is. I figured you had to have it from all your other ones. Perfect. That is a heck of a room you've built yourself there, and some great honorees to some of your teammates there too. So good stuff.
Yeah.
People on YouTube are definitely going to enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So, anyways, as much as I'd love to keep picking your brain and reminiscing and like doing the interview here with the gang and whatnot, I would like to talk going toward the actual season here. So let's talk how the Blue Jays got to where we currently are. This was a team last year that won 92 wins and then got swept right off the bat from the in horrific train wreck level fashion, unfortunately, because we were ahead in that second game. And the Blue Jays, unfortunately, had the air let out of the tires. And here we are with not getting past the first round of the playoffs. So this team on paper is pretty much the same outside of some good retooling, I think is the best way to say it. It wasn't anything that was major catastrophic. It was taking some pieces, moving some money around, and grabbing some new pieces. So the big piece to this whole thing was over the offseason was they bring in Chris Bassett, who is an innings-eating machine. Mr. Consistency. I loved watching him when he was in Oakland A. He only did better in Manhattan or in Queens last year with the New York Mets. Scott, how important is it all of a sudden with the Blue Jays having that miss of losing Ross Stripling, who really emerged himself last year, throwing somebody in, you just know what you're going to get every 5th day with Chris Bassett?
Fantastic. And he was in the biggest environment in New York, so we go to New York, we go to these big areas as well, Boston. He can handle that pressure. Like you said, innings eater, resting the bullpen, setting it up so the next guys don't have to do as much. The more guys you have like that, the better, Gossman, obviously, Manoah. so happy about how Kikuchi had a spring like he did. Let's hope he just carries that into what I see that lowest.
That confidence is all kinds of swagger.
Yeah, he's pitching with confidence now. So I'm very happy that Kikuchi's really starting to pull it out in the spring. And I think that's how he earned the 5th start position. Like I said, I'm hoping, like everybody, that he actually has a very consistent year.
Yeah, this is what he was doing with Seattle the previous year. And then he ran into the confidence issues that obviously ran into last year, or whatever mechanical piece was running into it. But we all knew he had the stuff. So if this is what we're getting now, to your point, Scott, that's a heck of a rotation. And I don't see any way in hell how Jose Barrios has the year that he had last year. Again, I've been having the pleasure of watching him since he was a Rochester Red Wing here in my hometown. So places I know you played, Scott.
Yeah, well, and you don't even know. Barrios, he might be the 4th starter, right? What's it, Manoah, Gossman, Bassett, Barrios, and Kikuchi? Like, let's be honest. He's going to be facing other teams' 4 starters. Like, it's going to be a little less pressure for him with our offense, you know? And then back to our offense, like you said, not huge, but I mean, we got lefties in the lineups, fella. Like, we got lefties in the lineup that we could not do before. We couldn't break up all the righties we had. We got Varsho, Belt, you know, we got guys that can step in there. Right.
Yeah, so. Kiermaier's, I know these guys, my favorite other guy that's on the team. I just hope that he stays healthy. That's my biggest thing. If he's healthy, he's a great add to this team. I'm just hoping that I'm going to keep knocking on every piece of wood I can find that he stays healthy. So, but those are all great pieces to this offense, Jason, as far as the pieces go here. That's going to help carry that pitching. You know, what's worst case scenario? You're talking about those guys, even if they have a bad night, you're still talking about a 4-run, maybe, you know, through 5 innings or something. And we have the offense to be able to turn around and make that up with the sheer athleticism they've massed up this year.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that I see, you know, coming out of spring training and all the positives that are coming out of it is it's kind of reminiscent of my thinking is like the Edmonton Oilers in the 80s. They've got swag. They're going to go into the game. If you put up 3 in the first, they're just going to look at each other and go, well, we got to get 4 in one, I guess. And then 5 in the next and 6 in the, they don't care. Like, if the Jays play like the Jays are built to play, it'll be pedal down baseball. It'll be so much fun to watch. There'll be hit and runs. There'll be stealing bases. There'll be balls flying out of the yard in every direction. Like, guys that you don't think will hit 15 or 20 will hit 15 or 20. Now, those are all the perfect scenarios. I think one of my biggest things that I really enjoyed watching in spring training was Whit Merrifield. I had a blast watching that guy. He's fast. He's smart. His baseball IQ is through the roof, and I don't know if we give him enough credit for that. Hits the ball, played well. Right now, you know, I think when we started the season, I didn't write it down, but I think my breakout was Danny Jansen. I think I may have to switch that if it's allowed by law during the, you know.
That was the way too pre-spring training bold predictions fun. So,
you know,
they
truly, like, I watched a lot of spring training baseball. I watched a bunch when I was down there, and I just watched a ton on TV. And there's 5 or 6 teams that look like they are having so much fun right now. And I'm willing to bet that those teams, if they stay healthy, will be the teams at the end, not necessarily the ones that are built based on money or based on any other kind of scenario. You know, the Jays, the Orioles, you know, the Phillies look like they were having a blast this preseason. You know, it's nice to see, and I'm hoping that the fun stays in baseball, and I'm hoping that the pitch clock and all this other stuff that creates these situations of stealing and chance baseball, I like to call it. You know, you see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I think the fun might be back in baseball, because I don't know if you've seen the couple of baseball MLB.com like commercials that they're having. Dan Vogelbach steal bases because the bases are this much bigger. So I know he won't, but to that point, you see the fact that he's thinking about it, and you see Buck Showalter going, "Dude, no, don't do that." It's just,
it reminds me of. Did you see the clip that they had from last year when Rowdy Tellez steals second? And I can't remember who it is mic'd up on the bench. And he's standing there. I guess he's kind of talking. He's like, that's a pretty big lead for Rowdy. And then he's like, oh, he's going. Oh, he's going. Oh, he's going. And he's stealing the base. And the whole bench, they're all grabbing onto each other like, no, he's going. And they didn't even throw down. He stands up and he turns, he's clap. It's so fun. So much fun.
So, but that's the fun I think you're going to get with baseball, getting finally some stolen bases back into the game. We've been slowly seeing that decline for the last, God, feels like forever at this point. It'll be nice to see that pure athleticism come back into baseball where you do get some of that. And we were talking pre-show here, Scott, the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider, being one of the, I'd say, more grittier type people. You knew him while you were in the organization because he has been with the Blue Jays organization. And I see him as the guy that's going to make sure we steal some bases, hit and run, bunt guys over, not just sitting back and wait for the home run to happen. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know about the bunt them over, but I'd love to see it. I'm a pitcher. I like getting runs on the board, but the stealing for sure. We got a young, fast team. Put the pressure on the defense. Hit and runs, things like that. Get the kids moving. These guys are young out there. Start playing ball like you're young. We're not old. We're not like grinding through at bats and professional. Like, let's get out there, play ball, hair on fire. Snyder knows these kids. He knows their ability. He coached a lot of these guys in AA with New Hampshire, won a couple Eastern League titles, AA championship. He knows what they can do. They're a little bit more mature now, and I like how – and right out of spring training, I think I'm not sure where he said it, but we're not doing the jacket right now. We're coming in here. The fun's, I don't know what the exact lingo was, but the fun's kind of over. Now we're expecting to be there. We're not just playing around to be there. So he's teaching them, like, expect to be there. Expect to be winning ball games every time and carry yourself like we're not just happy to be winning. We expect to be at this level. And I think the maturity of this team, the veteran leadership they've added, like I said, the sky's the limit, and he's the guy for the helm. He's been with the organization 20 plus years, and he's not Canadian, but he's about as Canadian as you're going to find with a guy who's been with the Jays.
Yeah, I think he's guilty by proxy by being a Blue Jay for 20 years, basically, at this point. So
he's a lifer. Let's go.
And it's amazing hearing that story. And they were talking about it on the most recent extra innings piece of the Blue Jays stuff they have it on YouTube. It's an awesome piece. Please go take a look at it. And about how he got here a little bit and how he's going into his first major league season fully as the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. And to hearken what you were talking about, Scott, it's how do we go from good to great? And I wasn't trying to make it sound like the movie Office Space in my head, where how the difference between this and that is that little bit extra or whatever it might be. Make sure you wear all your pieces of flair and whatnot.
Pieces of flair, yeah. Exactly.
But I think that right now is the mantra that everybody has jumped into on this team. And I think it's not just seeing Vladdy, Bo, Biggio having a monster spring, all of these guys really hearkening and moving toward that mantra. And then you get guys like Brandon Belt that comes in. He's won World Series. He is the captain, right? So as far as all that goes, you bring in that talent. Kevin Kiermaier is a veteran presence, has been in the World Series. All these guys that have just been there and thrown into with these guys that had been very damn close to being that next piece. That little bit is going to make a nice little cocktail in this locker room that's going to hopefully take that piece over. And I do think the grit and talent is going to be a major driver in that piece. Ken, I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, no, I'm just like I said, I'm just excited just for the season to start, right? I think we've been talking because when I came on the show, actually, it was just near the tail end of the season. Just for I think maybe for one or two games of the playoffs, and then that was it. And then I didn't get a chance.
And then
we
kept doing this all off season.
Yeah, and we've been doing this all in the off season, so it's going to be nice to actually see it right from game by game and with a lot of feedback and analysis. But yeah, just excited all in general, and I don't know what else to say.
So we had mentioned a few minutes ago that the roster for this team was pretty set. Outside bringing in new guys like Dalton Varsho, who has really kicked it up over the last couple of weeks of spring training here. It's been very good to see. As I was expecting Blue Jays fans to get very excited about him, and he's an awesome talent. You don't see many guys that can catch and play center field. Just saying. So having somebody that athletic in this lineup is going to only help in one manner or the other. But the roster is pretty well set. There were some guys that were tipping on the edge. We talked about Otto Lopez versus Nathan Lokes. And right now, guys, that was really the only other pieces outside of, I can say with the bullpen was a complete wild card of certain guys past Romano and whatnot. And you really ended up turning into a nice little piece here at the end of it. And I think we have a very, very talented rotation to be anchored down by a very good bullpen here. Jordan Romano is a standout. We went out and traded get Eric Swanson from the Seattle Mariners. Unfortunately, we lost Teoscar Hernandez in that equation, but I think we turned around and got the same piece back inadvertently with Dalton Varsho. So there's some nice pieces here in this bullpen, along with guys like Anthony Bass that raked last year. Adam Simber has always been solid. Yimi Garcia. It's a fun group. I'm surprised that some of these things landed the way we did. Is I kind of expected Nate Pearson to get a nice shot with the crazy spring he's had. But if he can keep locating like he's been, he might not spend too much time in Buffalo, guys. And to that point, Trevor Richards and Zach Pop are the other two gentlemen that round out that bullpen. What are your guys' thoughts on how that bullpen really ended up being a nice little strength out of it? Is there some good names in there that we're very used to? And a lot of reinforcements at the minor league level that could come in here really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm happy to see. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. For sure.
Go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead.
I'm just pumped there's a Canadian on the roster, besides Vladdy. He wears the Dominican Republic shirts, the chain. So, I know he's born in Montreal, but Zach Pop's up there. Never had the pleasure of meeting him. Obviously he was probably one of those fringier guys. If Nate Pearson was going to come out and put up a 0 in spring training, you never know. But it's all about consistency. Like, you don't have to have the best stuff to make it. You have to be the most consistent, and they need to know when they give you the ball, what they're going to get. And if you're erratic and you're all over and they're not sure, they cannot bring you because they're not sure what they're going to get. You have to show consistency. A lot of people never made the big leagues that have big league stuff because they're not consistent enough to take the chance on. So I think it's a good move. They rushed him early, calm it down, get him consistent, get him some confidence, bring him up. It's hard to keep 100 with the slider in the minors, but he's got to be consistent. He's got to build the confidence. It's a negative game, a lot of failure. And we got Canadian on the roster for now. So good.
It's funny you bring up the failure in the game because we literally had a sports psychiatrist on the show a couple weeks ago. Shout out to Dr. Jenna Ross.
Yeah.
We talked about how you get over those mental hurdles and have to play games with your mind sometimes because baseball is a game of failure. The best players in Major League history are, hitters wise, win a third of the time, right? It's just how
Well, my buddy Jimmy Van Osten played for Canada. He's the mental strength coach for the Blue Jays. So he knows, right? He's a Canadian ball player. He came up with the Rangers system. Team Canada guy, 10 years. So they're in good hands.
There you go.
Yeah, the way
out there.
The way that we deal with it, for us is we say fear is fuel. So if you're not scared, you're not fueling the tank. You're not getting yourself ready to play. And we're trying to teach the kids it's 100% okay to fail. My kids went to big league experience camp this summer up in Oliver, BC. Shout out to Marty. Great job up there. BLE actually won this weekend down in Phoenix. But one of the things they preached up there, and after a whole week of my sons being there, they got a report card. Now, I've done a million hockey camps with my kids. I did them as a kid. I've done them, everything I've done with hockey, similar to baseball. We got a very detailed report card after this week-long thing that they did and stayed at. And they also forecasted where the kids should be next year if they keep applying themselves. Here's the things you need to do, blah, 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 blah. And then for my one son, in big, bold letters at the bottom of the report card, it said, it's okay to fail. Now, do you know who that was pointed at? Me. Because
parents are always worse than the kids.
I try to be really even keeled about it and stuff like that. But, if there's no effort, I get angry. But I've come to realize that failure is something that you have to be able to build on. And I think that in this case with Nate Pearson, it's like Scott says, you can't keep a guy who throws like he does down there. But he doesn't ooze confidence, and his consistency is poor. And I feel like this is probably a real breaking point for Nate. If he goes down there and he is just torching dudes, they'll bring him up, and they've got the right, like they've got Mattingly, they've got, you know, all of the right parts to try and take a kid like that who struck me as being fragile. Whether he is or whether he isn't, I don't know him personally. He's just always struck me as being fragile. He seems to, as soon as things aren't going his way, his shoulders go down, body language is poor. And I mean, he's an animal. The guy, he's a beast. But, you know, that can be covered up quickly by the fact that mentally you can't control yourself. And hopefully going down, I mean, we've seen it with guys coming from the Vancouver Canadians all the way up to the Jays over the last couple of years. I mean, Manoah's confidence and his ability to get past and his forgettability of the game prior is key to as good as he has been. And until you can get like that, you know, and Scott, you probably know there's probably a lot of games that you completely forgot about the second they were done. You know, like you gave up 3 and no, I didn't. What are you talking about? Let's go.
Move to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, Scott, can I ask you a question then? So the whole pitching clock now, do you think, like, is it yay or nay for you, Scott?
I always worked fast. It was never a problem. I personally, towards the end of my career, never picked a first. I never picked, but I also held the ball. I think throwing over rattles me, and I didn't have a good enough move to get an out. So it was just more of a only bad things can happen. So what I'd do is I'd hold the ball, look, and try and catch them off, and then step and go and pick them off. Yep. Or the time comes set, not even look the first, go to the plate. And while I'm sitting there relaxed, holding the ball, the hitter's all jacked up. The position, the base runner's all like, should I go? How's he doing? Is he going to come over here? They're all stressed, and I am just chilling. I love that aspect of the game of me relaxed and both of them not relaxed. So I really enjoyed that. I'm gonna be sad about losing that. They're not gonna be able to hold it as long. You're gonna have to pick, but you only get one. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But for me, I worked fast. I got on the mound, I got the ball, worked fast. Especially when I was doing well, I worked fast. If I'm not, you got to walk around the mound. You know, that's the self-coaching kind of goes away with this pitch clock. Good or bad, you got to get your butt on the rubber and get going.
Yeah, which could be a very beneficial or very detrimental, depending on what's going on at that moment.
For Kikuchi, it's working great for him.
I think that pace thing actually is moving it. Exactly. You can't get in your own head.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even tell you guys how many games I watched where the comment was made, hey, that guy's not letting his brain get in the way anymore. And it's so true. Like if you have stuff and the mechanics and the muscle memory like these guys have, shut it off and go. Shut up. What is it from Bull Durham? Just throw meat?
Yeah. Don't think meat, just throw.
Yeah.
I was about to just say, you beat me to it. So, but I really do think that it's going to help. The one thing that I was surprised with by the whole thing, they've been doing the minor league stuff with the pitch clock for the pitchers for a long time. And Scott, I know that you were talking about the holding it, and I think that's a very big piece of the game as far as just trying to control the run game. It's not just as much the dynamic between the pitcher getting the ball to the catcher quick enough. It's that if you mess with the runner's timing, and not to mention you're also messing with the hitter's pacing in that same situation. We saw Max Scherzer taking complete advantage of that this summer or this spring so far in spring training games, waiting to that last second, then just barely even winding up and just going like throwing a dart almost. He's still throwing the ball 87, 90 when he just does that. But it's going to be weird to see where those kind of things turn into loopholes in that new rule. And then the hitters, are they really going to get in the box and engage in that time frame where they need to too? I'm calling it right now that there's going to be still some giant game it's going to end on a sour note from one of these rules or the other, whether it's a pitcher not moving quick enough to get the ball to the plate or a hitter being struck out at the end of the game. We've already seen it twice this spring with a strikeout that's ended a game and then a walk that with the bases loaded that's ended a game too. So I'm just hoping it's not a playoff game with certain other teams involved. So,
or at least not against us.
See.
If it happens to our opponents, sure, no problem.
There it is. So, but back to the roster and the fun here. Let's see. It is opening day. Let's just talk. What are you excited to see? Whether it's a certain player you guys are excited to see for the Blue Jays really get into the game and start performing. Maybe a bold prediction. whatever you guys would. Let's just go around the table. I'm going to put Jason on the spot here first because
I think that I got a couple. And mine, mine all, and it's weird. Mine kind of tend to pull to the positions I played when I played. So for me, the person I'm most excited about, I spoke about Whit Merrifield before, who I'm super jazzed about, but I am really excited to see Matt Chapman this year. I am so hoping this guy can absolutely tear it up this year, smash the ball, run. He was running like an animal in preseason. It was really nice to sort of see some of these guys, be let free. And you can see it sometimes when they steal on their own. And that's what we're seeing, something that probably hasn't been in baseball in, 10 years, where a guy's making his own call to steal a base. It's just never happened. And they were talking about it on the One Jays broadcast that they figured the last 3 bases that he stole, or the 2 bases he stole, were both his call. He took his lead. He saw what the pitcher was, whether he's counting the pitch to the plate or what he's doing. But you can see that the guys are having to use their brain in a much different way. So, I mean, I'm psyched to see Chapman. I'd like to see Brandon Belt, do well. Again, your favorite guy, Kiermaier, I would like to see him do well. And then I
want to see him do well. Like I said, I'm scared.
Yeah. And then I think the other one that I'm super excited about is Bo's power. Bichette is, he hit 4. The last one was a real. That was a home run.
As a monster, it was pretty swing.
He is getting back into that slot where it looks absolutely effortless. Like that could have been a bloop single to into center, or it could have gone out of the stadium like it did. And when he is smooth and quiet, and just the violence all comes from his shoulder down, then he's incredible to watch. And so I think I almost named everybody on the whole team. Who'd I leave out?
I can't tell. Are you excited? Just, pause.
I guess.
Have another Oreo. Anyways, so now that we've had Jason run through the whole gambit of the roster here, Ken, I guess it's your turn. Good luck.
Well, I'm going to pick a few of the players that he did talk about. I'm excited to see Kiermaier because his spring was really, really strong this year, and I just feel like he has like this chip on his shoulder. So I'm curious to see how that's going to be playing out throughout the rest of the season. I'm excited to see Jensen. Like he was like healthy, like just almost like half a season last year. So to actually have a whole season, a whole runway to see how if he can perform to that level is also something I'm very excited for.
And he absolutely raked when he was on the field. Just there's a reason that the Blue Jays have 2 top 10 catchers according to Major League Baseball TV. It's hilarious.
Yeah, so. And you can't go wrong with the Toronto Maple Beef as well. Alejandro Kirk. I'm expecting a lot of things out of him, but I'm not going to say the typical players because I expect them to do well. I expect Bichette to hit well. I expect Vlad to do well. Springer, all those guys. So that's why I'm trying to look at the other players that maybe people don't really talk about because they only think about the main ones that we talk about normally. So that's my pick.
There you go.
Good
Scott.
Point, and nobody's talking about Vladdy, so we'll just obviously pencil him in for 330 and 50, So besides that, no pressure, Vladdy. Springer as well. But Bo got off to a horrible start last year. Everybody was, oh my gosh, did he lose it? So it's nice to see him start spring. Hopefully he can start a little stronger, just go into the season really well. I think Varsho, seeing him in Arizona, lefty, depends where you're putting him in there between 2 righties. He's going to get some pitches to hit, and he is going to do some damage. He's fast, defensive run save as a pitcher. He plays hard in the outfield. I'm excited on what he can do. He's built like a solid brick. Oh my gosh. It's exciting. He's getting used to a new team, right? It's his first trade. So it's just a lot. Kiermaier has a lot of familiarity with the Blue Jays, obviously with the Rays there. So he knows the outfield. He kind of knows that whole scenario. And then, I guess my dark horse, we got Hyun-Jin Ryu coming back halfway through the season here, and he is a stud when he's healthy. Now, I get it. You come off an injury, but, you want to pick me up halfway through the season. He's not there for his 97. That's not his style. He can flip it in there, 4 pitches, locate, and get you off balance and bring in the hard-throwing reliever. nobody's even talking about him. And I understand he's coming off injury, but he's a Cy Young winner. He's a big body. He's been a horse his whole career.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what possibilities he can bring us midway through.
Yeah, and in addition to him midway through, that would not only be just another great arm, it'd be another great left-handed arm that can eat up some innings. You're also possibly going to get Chad Green at that same time, who the Blue Jays signed to a 2-year deal. That's sneaky bandit stuff, especially stealing a guy like that. That's the Yankees guy. That's just going to make me feel so much better if he's the reason that we come in at the trade deadline and quote unquote acquire Chad Green because he finally shows up because he's finally feeling better and just helps us run right into the playoffs. It's going to make things really, really, really interesting. As far as who I'm excited to see hopefully the real Jose Barrios show up this season. Like I said, I've been riding the Jose Barrios train for a long time, and he's been very up and down through his career, but he's never been what last season happened. He's too young. He's too talented. I don't see it happening for a second season in a row. And to what we were all talking about earlier, and Scott mentioned out and pointed out, he's going to be facing the fourth starter for most guys. He's going to miss this whole home opener in St. Louis, and he's going to pitch his first game in Kansas City, which is a very familiar ballpark to him, playing with the Twins as many years as he did. So that's going to probably feel a little homey for him to be able to start the season off and hopefully get on the right foot, because I think that will really engage it. And to that point, he did pretty good in the World Baseball Classic too. So I think he's also ready to go and amped up a little bit to that point too. So I'm excited to see where he goes, along with I'm hoping to see the continued success of Chris Bassett. I've always liked watching him. Maybe it's just because some of my favorite pitchers over the years have been the Jimmy Key types that are in that same mantra and that same ballpark. So that's where I'm looking. So
I have to say though, with Chris Bassett, his delivery, you cannot teach that to any kid how to throw a baseball. I mean,
it's completely
eyes
bonkers.
open, and just that you can't even start to teach a kid to throw like that. I don't know how that's effective. I want to text Pete Walker and be like, how is he doing it? Because I mean, you got to be here, not here.
Yeah. Do you think your old buddy Pete's just saying, just go do you?
100%. Oh yeah, he's not there to tinker with it at all. But
it's already working for him, right? Like,
oh my god,
I'll help when you need it. Just have fun, right? So, and to that point, I used to do a lot of batting teaching to kids here in Rochester, New York, and whatnot for Little League, and going toward the whatnot or higher levels and going toward high school baseball and whatnot. I didn't try to ever tear down their swings or pitching or anything like that. And I think that's you have mechanics that work for you. The best coaches, the Pete Walker types and whatnot, offer those little tidbits and whatnot that might be the difference between you throwing 3 strikes out of 3 pitches versus 2 out of 3. Those little teeny adjustments. And to that point, like you said, with Chris Bassett, ain't broke, don't fix it.
Holy cow. Blows my mind the way he throws.
It is, and then that's actually some rule that we didn't talk about here too. We all forget that Gosman's had an amazing, immaculate level of spring, but he's a guy that, because of the new rules, had to actually change his delivery this year. So that's another interesting piece. The split's still going to split. I have a strange feeling it's not a complete teardown like is it Louis Garcia, the Astros, that literally has to start all over with his mechanics because of all the near cheerleading level stuff he did before the pitch.
Yeah, the rocking into it. Yeah, that needed to get shut down anyway. Let's be honest.
Oh, I agree with that. It's too much nonsense and everything like that. It's not even like we're talking like old school, like Satchel Paige delivery or anything like that. It's just weird.
Yeah, I know. It's like, just lift your leg up, buddy. Let's go and let's start throwing the ball towards the plate.
You talk about a guy that wouldn't have made the pitch clock now, right? It's not just the wind-up roll. It's just he's going to take too long to deliver the ball to the plate. So last piece here before I let Scott go, because I believe you had a hard stop here in a few minutes, correct?
Yeah, I got my girls. I coach a little PBA team, the Milwaukee Chicks. There's 4 Peaches girls. An old Blue Jay, Jeremy Accardo, his wife started it.
Nice.
And there's girls ages 8 to 12, and we have 4 teams. They play each other, and we have a practice tonight. So our team's called the Milwaukee Chicks. It's the girls baseball league. We picked 4 teams, and it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun. I work with all the pitchers, and we got to get out there and do it. It's only 450 here in Arizona, so we've got plenty of time.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's dark and snowing, and there's no more sun left here in the New York and Toronto area. So, but to that point, right before we end the show here, before we do our customary 2 claps and a Ric Flair with the "Let's Go Blue Jays" chant to go into the opening day season here, let's talk picks to click, boys. This is something we were doing all since the inception of this show 4 or 5 years ago, and this is just over the next week before our next recording. We keep score for the whole season, including our guest spot that Mr. Richmond here is a part of. Who is your predicted next week of Blue Jays baseball until our next recording? Who do you think is the guy that will be the standout of the opening week of baseball here? And we are going to be, like I said, starting off in St. Louis. As far as pitching goes, we're going to have Manoah, Gausman, and Bassett to kick off that season or the season. Then they will be facing what looks like nice weather, thankfully, in St. Louis, and Miles Mikolas, Jack Flaherty, former almost Cy Young guy as well, and Jordan Montgomery, ex-New York Yankee, which that one could go either way because a lot of these guys have played against the Yankees for a million years. So that's the opening up the season, and then we head to Kansas City where they're going to face Brady Singer and Chris Buick. So that's the opening gambit for the Toronto Blue Jays. Scott, you are the guest for the show. So who would be your Blue Jay pick to click here for our guest spot on the scoreboard?
Well, early in the season, I have to go with pitching. I'm going to go with a starter. I love what Manoah's doing, but I'm going to go Gausman. I'm going to go Gausman being the dark horse to get us off on the right foot, just dominant right out of the gates. He loves to pitch inside. He throws the splitter. Manoah is obviously facing aces, so my numbers might be skewed a bit there, even though he can be just as dominant. I'm going to go with Gausman as being the pick of the week.
So the first pick of the year for the guest spot was Mr. Kevin Gausman by former pitcher Scott Richmond. So that's why you had to do it, right?
Hitting usually starts a little slower when you're coming out of the gates here. You know, I'm not going to hang my hat on that right out of the gates. It's hard for them. Pitching, it's just here we go again. It's cold out. You get inside, hurts the hands. I don't know. I've done it. Pitching's where it's at.
I agree with you, especially this time of year in the northern states. It's usually pitcher friendly-ish compared to where the hitters have to deal with. I did hear it's going to be about 18, 19 degrees Celsius, though. So that's what it's saying for the weather tomorrow. And actually sunny and no rain. That's not northern parts of the state's weather for this time of year. It's like supposed to be like crappy like it is outside my window right now, right? So anyways, Ken, let's go with you next, seeing you're the next longest tenured person on this show at the moment, but beating Jason by like a week and a half.
Yeah, I think I would have said my pick would have definitely. I'm going to have to piggyback off of Scott. Actually, is Gausman. I just have a feeling that he's going to be like.
So there's the rules of the game that I forgot to lay out.
Oh, you can't do it.
Pick the same person as the other people, so it's got to be something new.
Okay.
And the other fun here is you can't pick the same guy 2 weeks in a row.
All right. Oh, geez.
So there you go. I'm sorry. Now I really wrenched it. I forgot that I was doing this with the former gentleman that I had on the show. I don't think because you guys came in at playoff time, we had stopped doing the picks to click at that point.
Oh, okay.
So
you know what? I think I'm going to go with Chapman.
There you go. And now you're making Jason all jealous as far as things go. Because that was probably his
No,
guy.
I'm good. I'm good.
So Jason, go ahead. Who do you think?
I got two here. I'm going to hit you with my pick, and then I'm going to hit Scott with something right before we go here, and then hopefully this will bring Scott back onto the show again. So my pick is George Springer. George Springer is going to have a massive start to this season. He's going to be off the charts. I got a really good feeling about him. And my hook to get Scott back is my very good friend Brooks McNiven just texted me to say that he saw that you're on the podcast. And he wants you to come back and talk about the Olympic qualifier game in Taiwan with the bench clearing brawls and escorts to the hotel and all that other stuff. So hopefully that brings you back.
No problem. I love Brooks.
Great guy.
I come back to Vancouver for 7 weeks every summer. So I'll be back up in June. I'll be in Vancouver. I love to come out there. Yeah, I got family in Lynn Valley. So
that's where I am.
Yep. So
it sounds like you guys got a date at the Nat Valley. You know, it's just kind of
I haven't been in Nat Valley in 20 years, but I'd love to.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
There you go. So I got to put my pick in, and this is because I think Alejandro Kirk is going to be one of the better hitters on this lineup all year. And regardless of the fact that he's catching or DHing, I think he's going to have to be in the lineup because of what he just has some of the best bat ball skills on this team. And I'm not just saying that because of what I've seen from him in a Blue Jay uniform. I've been watching Alejandro Kirk since I was hanging out, helping announce games on random road trips when I was down in Bluefield, West Virginia. So I've seen him literally hit balls into the wilderness at Bowen Field, and it was an interesting time. So we're just going to say I'm going to run with Alejandro Kirk to kick off my season here. So that's where I'm at. Is there anything the rest of you gentlemen would like to talk about before I give Scott Richmond his shameless self-promoting bit that he kind of started already?
I'm good.
There you go. So Scott, this is your moment to shine. If you have anything you want to plug or tell all the Blue Jays fans where to find you these days, please.
Living in Arizona, I'm coming back to Vancouver. I love to do clinics back when I'm home in Vancouver, just with my local friends that do stuff. Like Jason said, you got Brooks McNiven there working with the Twins. They have Inside Performance down by the bridge, and got a good buddy over at Batter's Box on the island that I go do stuff with as well. And
nice.
You can hit me up on Instagram, Scott48Richmond, and on Twitter at the same thing. So I just like to be connected and give back to Canadians that I never had growing up. So every time I come back, try to do something to make somebody better. And like Jason said, they were just down here. Batter's Box was down here. A bunch of people were down here. I was able to come out and watch some people pitch and throw, and saw Dustin Mulliken, who was a Team Canada guy. He was down here working with BLE. And it's just really great to see the direction we're headed. I appreciate you guys having me on. I had a good time.
It was a pleasure having you on the show this evening. Thank you for joining us. So,
thank you,
Blue Jays fans. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I'm just saying thank you to Scott.
All right. So Blue Jays fans, make sure you join us here every Wednesday evening at 7:00 Eastern time. And it will be usually during game times from now on. It'll be just how much fun we are. So make sure you join us. Hit us up with the wonderful messages here in the game so we can chit chat about everything live as things are happening. We are here for you every 1 hour every week. We're going to try doing maybe some more things depending on what my spare time actually turns into. But make sure you listen live on YouTube, Instagram, any of these wonderful places where you can find us, in addition to wherever you get your podcasting pleasures from, whether it's Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, any of that good stuff. And gentlemen, it is that time of the evening where we do 2 claps, Ric Flair, and a Let's Go Blue Jays. So 1, 2, 3. Woo! Woo! Let's go Blue Jays.
Go
Jays.
Day. Kelly Gruber. Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.